Good news you can use with Delmar phone, yeah. She got the good news you can use. Good news you can use for your life. So listen up, everybody. Listen up, everybody. She got the good news you can use. Good news you can use for your life. If you wanna get the info that'll help you throughout your life, yeah.
Hello, and welcome to this special edition of the Boomer Beat, where I am talking to folks and challenging them to think about where they are now, where they were then, and what things they might have done differently. Because we all say hindsight is 2020, and if we could do a do-over, what is it we would really do? So today, sitting on the hot seat is Delmar Johnson, who we all know as an HR expert and an HR whisperer and all things HR.
Yes.
But, so Delmar, with that being said, why don't you tell us more about you growing up and how you got into your career?
Great question, because there's a good story behind that. So, growing up, grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. Just to give you a little backdrop, grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, the youngest of five girls, and we all attended the same high school, of course, different years and things of that nature. And I was a nerd. Okay, I was a nerd, so the kind that always did their homework and was a good student and things of that nature. But in high school, of course, that's when you start deciding, where you want to go to college, what you want to do when you grow up, and things of that nature. And I remember distinctly talking about when my career started. My career started in my head, first of all. My career started in my head, and it started when I made the dramatic statement of what I wanted to be when I grew up, or what I wanted to be when I graduated from high school. And that was actually that question was asked by one of my senior teachers. All senior teachers, where you going to college, what you're going to be doing, things of that nature. And she asked me, Delmar, what have you decided what you wanted to study in college, what you want to be when you grow up? And I emphatically told her, well, I'm going into human resources. Emphatically, like I knew what human resources was. I'm going into human resources because it deals with people, and I know I'm gonna be able to help people. Emphatically, didn't stutter anything. And they said, "Oh, you said that so assuredly," because I am sure. I don't even know what teacher that was, but it was one of my senior teachers. It's like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going into human resources. I had been looking into it, and I think it was because I was in a vocational program too at my high school. I was a I was a high school, National Honor Society member and all those kind of things, but I was part of a vocational program that first introduced me to the idea of human resources, which was called personnel back then. And that's what struck my interest. And then that's what provoked me to actually start reading more about human resources. And when we did the college tours of what colleges we wanted to go to, they had a program that dealt with human resources and office management and things of that nature. So I got into that program in my undergrad, and of course my graduate school programs, later on down the road. But that's where my career started, when I was 17 years old as a senior in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew? Okay. So let me ask you. You knew then what you now know.
Mhm.
Do you believe that you would have still said HR, considering all that you have been through along your HR journey?
As a matter of fact, I will still be in HR, because it's still, although HR has, many dynamics to it and has evolved over the years. And in those 30 years I've been in HR, I've seen it evolve, of course, but it would still be part of what I call HR as part of my DNA now at this point in the game. But it still deals with people. I've always known that I was going to have to deal with people in my lifetime, and why not make that part of my career? Now, I will tell you one thing I would have done differently in the earlier parts of this and going through college, especially in undergrad, is actually get internships in human resources during my college life, because that I think that would have positioned me quicker. Because after I graduated from my undergrad, it took me 4.5 years to get in the door of human resources,
Wow.
but I didn't have previous internships. So I think that would be one of the things that I would go back and change, is actually do at least 2 or 3 internships during the 4 and 5 years I was in undergrad. And I think that would have positioned me to at least get in the entry level of HR quicker, as one of, like, maybe a job that you get right out, right out of college. It's like, get your degree on one day, you're hired on the next day to go into the entry level HR. And I think internships would have positioned me better for that. But I paid my dues, and it took me 4.5 years out of undergrad to start my 30-year career in human resources.
All right. So speaking of college,
Yeah.
if you knew then what you know now, would you have selected the college you went to, or would you have seen one that might have positioned you in a better light for HR?
Oh, that's a good question. And to be honest with you, when I look back at some of the colleges that I applied to, in addition to the one I wind up going to, I still would have picked Middle Tennessee State University. It's one of the best schools in Tennessee. It really is. It was good when I was there 35 years ago. It's even better now because of their positioning in the community and what they've done, over the years, under the leadership that they've had there. And Middle Tennessee was a good space to be in as an undergrad, because I actually did study, and they did offer what I wanted to study, as far as human resource, or personnel, again at that time, personnel, and positioning me to evolve in the human resources industry. So I don't know that I would have picked another school beyond the schools that I applied for. The one that I accepted was the one that fit me better, I believe, than any of the other ones. So I don't think I would change my undergrad school.
So you're saying you had no desire to go out of state. You wanted to
Right.
stay home.
Yeah, I want to stay. I want to be far enough away where I felt independent, but close enough if my parents or my mother or my older sisters needed to come get me.
Yeah,
That was
we
how that was decided. It's like, but, because we were not in the position to pay out of state tuition and all that kind of stuff. So you have to take it all that into consideration 35 years ago. Okay, and and being a 5 children, that wanted to go to college. I was the last one to go to college, but still, it still took what, financial aid, loans, and all this kind of stuff to go. So in state just made more sense for our family dynamic. Mhm.
All right. So if you knew then what you know now, would North Carolina have been on your journey as you continued to travel along your journey? And what did you learn while living there?
Oh, that's a loaded question, Beverly. Um, I would say North Carolina probably would not have been on my list to live. Um, Probably would not have been on my original list to live in North Carolina. And I was in North Carolina almost 8 years. And in those 8 years, I probably learned some of the most profound things of who I am as a person, my tenacity and level of resilience, navigating through some very, very challenging personal life situations and professional situations. So, probably some of the hardest times that I've experienced as an adult was actually in North Carolina. So, when I think about it, that was like, I don't know if I would have picked North Carolina, but North Carolina, being that it was a part of my life, it did become a part of my life, also taught me some very tough lessons, but lessons that I am equipped to not fall back, not fall back to. It taught me some very tough lessons that ooh, I don't want to go through that anymore. I've learned it. I'm not going back.
I hear you. All right. Speaking of challenges, I know that you did have to spend some years as a
Mhm.
caregiver.
Yes.
And so, in hindsight,
Hmm.
is there anything that you think you should have done differently, could have done differently? And what did you learn from that experience?
Ooh. Yeah, almost 10 years of caregiving. That's a heavy load. That's a heavy load. It affects every area of your life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. It affects every area of your life. And I think what I could have done better, this may sound a little strange, what I could have done better was take care of me better. while I was taking care of my mother. I could have taken care of me better. You know, the self-care. Self-care was not even, it was not even in my vocabulary. You know, I knew what self-care was, of course, but I didn't do enough of it. I didn't plan enough of that. Uh, I was not intentional enough for self-care because of the level of caregiving that I was accountable for. So I would have changed that and really putting it on the calendar. You know, as far as okay, Thursday is my self-care day. I don't care what's going on, or you know, whatever. Pick a certain day where you do that, and that was not the case. So I would have been much better at doing that and taking care of myself, so I could take care of her better. That's what I would have changed because, like I said, it affects every area of your life. And then when it's long term, then is affects after the fact when that assignment is done. So the past 2 years that I've been in has been in total transition and upheaval of my own life, of trying to adjust now. Okay, that assignment is over. Mother is at rest. So it's like, you know, and these last 2 years have been me going through my own personal transition of like, okay, now it's time to start anew, reclaim some things that I like, you know, desire in my life, and God's promises are coming to pass. That that's where I'm ready to walk into. So, but that's what I would have changed the most in being more intentional in taking care of myself better. So, you know, to continue balancing out, taking care of her and myself at the same time. That's what I would have changed.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you.
30 years ago, did you see yourself being an author?
Oh, no. No. That was not on the radar 30 years ago. It was not. Um, I first became an author with the memoir that I wrote in 2014. But 30 years ago, no. I think just the experience that I had, because I left Tennessee, my home state and town, for 12 years. So I was working in different cities. I worked in Dallas, worked in Raleigh, North Carolina. So experiencing life outside of where grew up at, of course. And that 12 years actually provoked the first book. That provoked the first book, which was Seasons of My Soul is my first book. That provoked the first book in 2014. But 30 years ago, being an author was not on my radar at all.
Okay. All right. So, one final question, leaving it on this note. What do you say to generation X, Y, and Z, well, whoever they are out there?
Whatever alphabet we're on right
Yeah,
now.
whatever alphabet we're on, about their woulda, shoulda, couldas.
Yeah.
And so that they don't, get to an age and reflect and say, oh, I wish I had done this. What do you say to them?
Oh, you know what? I say take more risk. Take more risk. Be more open to actually listening to wisdom that you may not have. Be more open to, yes, you want to do your own thing. Of course, we all went through that phase. Do your own thing. You wanted to do it your way, but don't be so closed off to the wisdoms of others who have been on that path before, who can give you, maybe a little heads up of how to avoid some things, because not everything has to be hard. Not everything has to be difficult if you're open to listening to those who have the wisdom beyond you. But be open to that. Be open to being more flexible. Be open to taking more risk. Be open to actually believing in yourself, listening to what that dream is that has been given to you. And then also another thing with that, don't share your dreams with everybody. Be very cognizant of who you share your dreams with, because yes, there's dream snatchers out there, and then everybody likes a confidant. So you have to build that kind of relationship where you have a confidant, where you can share your dreams with somebody, but your dreams are not meant to be shared with everybody. It's like people will see your dreams out loud once they have come to life, once you've put it out there, for people to experience that dream. But sometimes you have to keep those dreams to yourself, close to the vest. Okay, close to the vest, close to your chest, before you release it out there. So I say be flexible, be open to listen to wisdom beyond you, because you may avoid some tough times. Okay. take more risk, and believe in yourself, and listen, and actually pursue your dreams with courage and confidence, no matter what it looks like to the outside.
Wise words from a wise woman. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
your
you.
If I Knew Then What I Know Now.
Yes.
And on that note, we want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And remember this, you have gifts to give the world. So find your own unique voice and prosper. Take care. Thanks, Delmar.
Beverly, this was fun.
Good news you can use for your life. If you want to get the info that'll help you throughout your life. Yeah.